so out of the 48-inch strips, this is what I was left with. And then for those wondering how I got the bends, I don't have any specialized tools. What I used was the end of this hammer right here to get a curve. I would start the bend off by putting it under my shoe, for example, and then I would pull up like so just to start the bend. And you see it gives that wide bend, and then I would finish it off by putting the hammer on top and then bending it to the angle that matches the car's bumper. And then I would also use my hands to persuade it. Now sometimes I would even use the vise. I would just open it up and then maybe just in different parts give it a little bend so that I can try to make that curve. You see how it curves? And I would just keep doing that until I had the curve that I wanted. Now sometimes you might make a curve that's a little bit too much. Let's just do that. I'd say this is too much of a curve. What I then do is I open up the vise. Let's put you down here so you can see. Or try to see. I would open up the vise and then I would put the piece in the vise. And then with the vise, see if I can get this to stay. With the vise, I would actually squeeze to open up the angle a little bit more. So let's say that's too much of an angle, then I would just squeeze. And you see the angle starts to become wider and wider. Trying to do this with one hand is a little hard, so you see, and that's how I did the bends. And then sometimes I would make too much of a sharp bend, so then I would just go against like a piece of wood, and what I used was like something like this, and I would go here and then I would just hammer while moving it so that I can get that curve I wanted. And that's basically all that I use, just a hammer, a vise, my feet, and manual labor to get the bends that I wanted. And it just takes a lot of time, but just you know, persistence, and you'll get it. Now it's time to work with the filler panel. Now, over the years, it's been almost 40 years, the filler panel has been beaten on by the sun and the cold and whatever else over the 40 years. And the filler panel, you know, warps and everything. So now, as I'm putting it back, I want to make sure that I get the curve straight. And I've already did this. And so what I did was, this filler panel is made out of rubber. So I took some propane, and if you've seen from my other one of my other videos with the oil can effect, propane is a very good cheap tool to have. So I took the propane and I heat up the rubber from both sides, just heat it up until it starts to become soft. And then as it's becoming soft, what I did was I stretched it so that I get this curve. So you can see it's nicely curved in there. Now, to make sure that as I'm stretching it doesn't move, I clamped it into place, and this clamp here I put on there after I got the stretch to where I wanted it. So now when I'm going to bolt this up, I noticed that there was a hole here in the filler panel, but there is no bolt hole for the quarter panel. So my plan is, since I have a little bit of a lip here, and you can see the lip, I'm going to bolt it to the quarter panel. So I'm going to put one here, maybe one here, and then one over here, and that will ensure that I get this curve nice and even. And I'm going to have to do this on the other side because it's not, you can see there's a gap there. So what I do is I just heat it up on both sides and then give it a nice stretch, and then I take my water. You see I have some water with the rag, and as I'm holding it in the stretch position, I'm cooling the rubber down so that when I finally let it go and it's fully cooled, I have the shape I want it. So that's how I'm getting the filler panel in place. And then to ensure that it doesn't move, I have one right in the center, vice grip. So, and then I marked off in several parts so that I can ensure that I'm not moving the panel as the filler panel as I'm stretching it. Okay, here's another area that I'm working on right now. I noticed that these areas here are not stretched enough to conform, and I want to bolt it up to this, so I want a little bit more closer. But I don't want it exactly, because what I want to do is when I bolt it up, I want to be able to stretch this down. So I'm using a propane treatment to just stretch it just a little bit more, but a little bit less than the actual metal. So you can see there's a comparison. That's before and that's after. And that's the stretching that I'm doing. So all I gotta do is just heat it up on both sides, then press down, and I get the stretch. So that's just another area that I wanted to stretch so that I get that you know, pattern the same as the actual bumper. Okay, here it is after. And it only took me about 5 minutes to do that. And now you can see both sides are stretched to where they need to be. And now the panel can be bolted on a little bit more smoother. Now if I wanted to stretch this portion here, all I gotta do is just heat up right here and then just press down and I get that stretch. But for now, I'm not interested in this portion here to be stretched until I actually bolt up my flange. And then I will know if I need to stretch it or not. But in order to do so, I need to first bolt this on so that I make sure it's in place and then do my test fitting. So now I got the filler panel in as how I would like it. It's been stretched in various parts just to get it to conform. So there's that part I stretched, and it's nice and close to the tail panel with a nice even gap all the way across. And here's the other side stretched to conform against the body, and then over here. And as I stated, I'm going to be bolting it here, maybe here, and over here, so that I can maintain that nice tight fitting. And then this flange will be bolted to the trunk pan tail panel area. And I'm thinking I'm going to seam seal this right up to the body. I don't want any water to get back, you know, back in there and then under. So most likely I'm going to seam seal it right to the body. I think it'll look cleaner if it was seam sealed anyway. It'll look seamless. And then here's the stretched area, and then here's the other one stretched. And I wanted that because I'm going to be bolting it there. And then my marks still line up, so I know that my panel didn't move when I was doing the stretching. And so I'm going to leave it in the stretched position for a couple hours, maybe for the remainder of the day, as I did a lot so far this morning. I've been working on this car all morning. And so anyway, filler panel is in position. All it needs to be done is I'm going to bolt it to that flange of the trunk pan, tail panel area, and the quarter panels on the side. And that should take care of the filler panel in the position. Then I will do my test fitting with the bumper, and then I'll be able to see about installing my aluminum flanges that I made so that I can, you know, get that bumper installed and get that finished look. So that's my next step.